Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Melanie, and I am one of the performance marketing specialists here at LiveRent. Today, we're joined by a special guest. We have Bradley Watson, who's a strategic JV specialist and broker at Watson Estates. Thanks for joining us today, Bradley.
Melanie, I'm super excited to join you guys here at LiveRent. This is a really exciting opportunity to connect with you and share meetings of the mind a little bit and be able to share a little bit about some of the experience I've had chatting with investors. And for anybody who doesn't know who I am, as I said, my name is Bradley. I actually am a podcaster. So you can find us on Toronto's #1 real estate podcast. We're actually the largest podcast for Toronto real estate on iTunes and Spotify. So you can jump over there if you want to learn more about the market after the show.
Awesome. We're a big fan of your work here, and I just want to quickly tell you and the new folks with us today about LiveRent. So we are a rental platform designed for renters, landlords, property managers with solutions for every stage of your rental journey or process. We love to do these free Live Talk webinars, and today's topic is top real estate investment trends for 2021. So today we're first going to have an investor's intro. We're going to talk about what an investor mindset is and how you can think like an investor. Then we're going to look at the landscape that Canadian real estate investors are finding themselves in right now. From there, we're going to be looking at real estate investment trends influenced by two key factors, which is number one, the working from home and social distancing, which means that renters' preferences are shifting and how these have affected the market and investors. The second factor is the digital transformation. We're going to share how investors can use technology to market, manage, automate, and scale their properties. Then lastly, we'll have our Q&A session. So you'll get a chance to ask us any questions you have about the topics we've covered and then some. So before we start and I hand it off to Bradley for his insights, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So this is the fun part that I like. We're going to take a look at the audience and see who's here with us today. So on our survey, we noticed that there are 39% realtors with us, 22% renters, 33% landlords, and 6% property managers. And from there, 50% of you guys have been in the industry for 5+ years, and 30% of you are 1 to 2 years in. Bradley, what do you think of the audience here today? Are you surprised at all, or not so much?
Not surprised, but very excited still. I mean, from my background anyways, I'm also a realtor in Ontario and an investor and obviously naturally a property manager as well. So I think that's really exciting. I love hearing there's experience in the room. Most of the audience that we have on the show are also experienced. So happy to answer any questions as time goes on in these categories. So.
Yeah, for sure. The questions are going to be really interesting today, I think. So to make the most out of your experience with us today, please remember to turn off your ad blocker. And if you haven't yet, create an account so you can unlock the side panel features, which includes our giveaway draws. So the live chat panel is your place to introduce yourself, let us know who you are, where you're from, and ask us your questions for, again, the Q&A session. It is on the right-hand side of your screen, and we have LiveRent agents who will also be answering any burning questions that you may have, so they'll be in the live chat. So while you are learning about the biggest investment trends of the year, you'll also have a chance to win 1 out of 3 $100 Amazon gift cards. So to win this, you have to navigate to the giveaway panel on the right-hand side of the live stream, complete the specified actions and click submit entry. And each completed action is an additional raffle entry. So you have up to 5 entries in the raffle. And again, once you complete the actions, please don't forget to hit submit entry. We are also going to be running some polls throughout the webinar. So you'll see those pop up on your screen. So let's get the first one going right now. We want to know, as a future or current real estate investor, what is your biggest pain point? I think this is a great question to start us off. So make sure you cast your vote and we'll reveal the results later on. Bradley, what's your biggest pain point as an investor?
Well, some of the ones you have listed here are absolutely big pain points. And I think, I mean, I hope I don't influence the results of the survey, but I know for a lot of bigger investors, a lot of the importance of the keeping their initial investment actually creates a bit of a baseline. So a lot of people, though we talk about this is the return you're going to get, these are the opportunities involved in this investment, a lot of people are often thinking, well, what about the money I currently have and how are we going to keep that safe? So I know that that's probably going to come through in some of those results. I at least that's something that I've experienced. So.
Okay. All right. So let's kick this thing off. I'm just going to ask you to set the stage for us before we dive into the trends. So, what is an investor's mindset and why is that important?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And you're going to start to see through the rest of our talk today how this kind of plays in. So, investors, they don't necessarily have to be in real estate. Obviously, that's what we're covering today. But the investor's mindset is really more about the psychology of like how, when you're looking at an investment, do you want to have one, two properties, which is the vast majority of individuals? I mean, especially for those who have been less than 5 years in the real estate investment world, that's probably the category that you're in. But what you soon find when you talk to many investors is that there's a bit of a threshold that once you can break through that, it's almost limitless. And so the investor mindset is to be able to break through and using different strategies to get there, and not just simply have one or two properties or live off your equity, let's say, to go into retirement, but actually have a purpose and a goal to get further along. They're also very much focused, I find, on things like hard assets, right? Things that they can actually touch and feel and have a level of comfort in knowing that no matter when things change, all things equal, that's still going to be there at the end of the day. And obviously there's various investment vehicles, but the fact that real estate is a hard asset, I think, is what gives it so much value to a lot of investors such as myself.
Yeah, for sure, sure. Another part about being an investor is even thinking in the long term and thinking about scalability. So we saw so many of our clients that are landlords and property managers take full advantage of live rent in the last year, especially when with COVID, the situation pushing everything into digital. Our entire platform supports investors looking to scale, and I'll be sure to touch on a few ways on how to do that in this webinar. Bradley, let's finish setting the stage for everyone. So we know now about the investor mindset, but what's the situation like right now? What's the environment that investors are finding themselves in Canada, and how are they navigating through it?
There, we could come at this from so many angles, and I know we're probably going to get questions just from this segment alone. But if we were
Yeah.
to just look briefly at the economy in Canada, I mean, if there was a time in history where real estate would go down the poo-poo, it would be this one, right? And yet we see this incredible strength that we have of the Canadian economy, of the Canadian real estate market specifically. I mean, we've got so many pressures in place, some of which COVID has caused, things like low interest rates, which means very low borrowing costs for all investors, big and small, right? And
Yeah.
we also see effects such as immigration, because we've been very lucky recently to have an inflow of immigration. I think now we're realizing how valuable that is. And even though it seems impossible, the government's committing to having millions of immigrants coming in the next few years, and how that's going to help propel. People are looking 2, 3 steps down the road, as large investors should, and are saying, hey, where can I be? Where can I take advantage of all of these things? And the demand pressures are so high, regardless
Mhm.
of the market. And then you add that to the supply pressures and the crunch that some people have in these urban centers. I mean, that's a recipe for very fast appreciation in real estate prices, which we're already seeing and will continue to see in these types of hard assets.
For sure, for sure. And you mentioned hard assets, right? So, with hard assets, with an income stream that are super important, we know this through practice and through working with our landlord and property management clients very closely over the last year. Plus, if you want more facts to kind of back this up, focusing on hard assets is exactly what Canadian economist David Rosenberg recommends. He says that especially when the market is volatile, like it has been during COVID, hard assets like residential real estate get you cash flow from a rental income when you rent it out, but also the mortgage debt you incur is backed against the real estate. So let's check our poll results right now and see what you all thought was a pain point for being an investor. So 60% of the audience voted knowing where to invest. That's their biggest pain point. And 20% of the audience voted getting a big enough ROI. Bradley, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, when I look at that, I mean, I think that lines up with similar to what I'm saying. But look at,
Mhm.
people are looking for not if they're going to invest, but where. I mean, look
Yeah.
at look at and that is very much the attitude of a lot of investors right now, because people who are savvy, again, back to the economy, is we're looking at a ton of government spending, a ton.
Yeah.
And for any of those that are in the room here that are on the tenant side, I think it's important that we kind of recognize that there's value, that yes, maybe you don't have property taxes, right? Because you sit back and think, I don't need to pay these taxes. I'm free from the system. But when we look at actually how inflation works, we are all being taxed at astronomical levels. We're running super hot right now. So I think that the question so much from what we're hearing in the room isn't of where I'm going to get more of an ROI, but instead, how do I get the heck out of cash? Because people don't want to sit on cash. I mean, people say right now, cash is trash. So where can I put it to get the best ROI?
Yeah, for sure. I think the timing of this webinar is just on point at this point. So we've got this investor mindset now, and my mind is actually buzzing with ways on how to act like an investor. And I love that I can be an investor even from home, which brings us to our first section of our webinar, talking about the effects of the working from home movement, social distancing, and how all of this has affected renters. So working from home is probably one of the major catalysts to many changes across all industries. As we all should be aware by now, working from home and remote work are here to stay, with many companies offering employees flexible work situations even beyond the pandemic. So even last year, towards the end of last year, you saw Google and Microsoft shutting down their offices. Salesforce just announced this year that they're going to be extending that remote work and letting their employees continue to work from home. So the first effect we'll be talking about this is the pandemic positioning. So before we get some hot tips from you, we want to know from our audience, what areas are you looking into invest in post pandemic? So Bradley, obviously location is very important in real estate. In Vancouver, we've seen areas far from the downtown core like Coquitlam and North Van. They have increased their rental prices compared to the rest of the greater Vancouver area. Is this something similar you're seeing in the GTA area? What specific neighborhoods do you think are going to be like the hot spots for investing?
Wow, good questions. My goodness, especially as it relates to knowing where to invest. I mean, you're hitting the hot buttons here. So yeah, the
Mhm.
GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, you're seeing the same type of thing you're seeing in Vancouver, and from what I've experienced or seen in other countries as well, is very similar, right? We're starting to see a lot of people running away from metropolitan areas. Now, granted, recently we are starting to see a pullback where people are coming back. So this is the $1 million question: are people going to come back to the downtown core? I think there's no doubt working from home is going to be a longer term trend. There's going to be an opportunity to have kind of this for sure a mix between staying home versus going into the office.
Mhm.
At least it's my personal thinking that there's been a lot of strength and arguments in favor of leaving the city, to the point where I would actually question, is that, are you just following everybody else? I mean,
Yeah.
is that the way we want to invest, or do we want to actually look at what comes next? So all things equal, I think we're starting to see, yes, we've had a lot of these big giants leaving the city, but we also do see big moves right now happening in the office space sector. At least downtown Toronto, we do big moves recently, very early on. And so I think it can go either direction. Now, as far as the next 12 months, let's say, I think that there can be a very strong case made that your low-rise suburban homes are going to outperform the main downtown area. But that's not to say that downtown's going to suffer. I mean, we just saw this year in the GTA during COVID, during a work from home trend, almost $100,000 in the average GTA home price. So where are
Yeah.
you going to get $100,000? Are you going to get $70,000? I don't think either person's going to be crying at the end of the day. But I think the worst thing you could do is sit on your hands. But absolutely, the working from home trend is going to continue. And if you're going to go further out, why the heck stop in Ontario? Why not go to other provinces? And a lot of people have taken that approach as well. I mean, we see landlords running in droves to places like New Brunswick, which have landlord favored rules in place. So there is, in a sense, no limit to what you can do as long as technology is the norm as it relates to working. The question is will that always be the case? And I wish I had a crystal ball for you today, but unfortunately I don't.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anybody does, right? And I think after COVID, once we see like everything kind of picking back up, and in Vancouver specifically, there's an Amazon office getting built, and I think another big tech just bid for Vancouver for their headquarters. So, you never know. People are driving away from the city right now, but in the next maybe 5 years, people could be going back. Who knows? So, for the next topic, it's probably one of my favorite ones to talk about, and that's getting the right residential property. So, as renter preferences continue to change, as we've talked about, they are looking for bigger spaces, either properties that allow them to have a home office or even properties that come with amenities such as co working spaces. Bradley, what are some types of rental properties that investors should look at investing in this year?
I mean, I'm very much a big believer in multifamily homes. I think that's always the case. I mean, even in an environment where people are struggling, they always need a place to live. This is the opportunity that investors have. Now, there's specific property types that people are looking for in new ways, right? Right now, I'd say one of them is coach houses or laneway houses, at least in these dense urban core, in the urban core of Toronto, for example. And we see some of these homes going for $1 million over their neighbors just simply because of the opportunity of having a laneway house put in behind. There's a lot of push right now for the city and the government, other government levels to move towards laneway housing in order to deal with the supply issue. I think that's a great opportunity. But also there's opportunities to buy undervalued properties, right? I mean, I know I'm well connected with people who are in the off-market power of sale type of deals, which I wish we had more of this year, but thank you to Mr. Trudeau, there's not as many. But there's still tremendous opportunities in there, right? There's still struggling people that have a place where they're like, you know what, I got to get rid of this place, and you can jump on those. And to even take that a step further is things like off-market properties, wholesalers. I know
Mhm.
there's a lot of realtors here today. Don't be afraid of approaching wholesalers, guys. If you can get your client a property $100,000 below what the market's going for, you don't think that they're comfortable paying your commission for you? Absolutely. And that's what I've been at least leaning towards in my business as a real estate professional recently.
Yeah. Yeah, those are really great insights and good tips on how to access off-market properties too. So before we get to the next trend, let's take a look at our poll results. Let's see here. So we did ask you what areas are you looking to invest in post-pandemic. So 67% of the audience actually voted out of downtown core, not a surprise there, and 33% of the audience voted out of province, just like you were mentioning.
So nobody said in downtown, is what you're saying.
No, nobody
It's actually
said.
really funny. I've done a similar poll on my YouTube channel. The numbers weren't this staggering, but they definitely lined up with people looking out of the downtown core. People are
Mhm.
comfortable with going further away, and that's why I think some of the top areas, at least in the GTA, are places like Windsor or Niagara. Not even just second markets like Hamilton, but people are leaving Hamilton even. They're like, well, the hell with this. I don't never need to go into the office. So again, I think there is, in a sense, a bit of an overplay happening here. I think that is true. I think we can all kind of agree. I think we're leaving a little bit too quickly, but that trend to leave the city existed pre-COVID. It's not like this is a new thing. The only difference today is the immigration filling in those gaps right now is obviously at a bit of a standstill, which is why I think you're starting to see that I think people are right, in all honesty, when it comes to the poll.
Yeah, okay, for sure. So now something I do want to bring up that we've heard you talk about in your podcast is house hacking. So can you talk a little bit about what house hacking is and how an investor should start?
Yeah. I think house hacking is a great opportunity, not just, and if you're somebody that's maybe got a property or two, you're like, oh, house hacking, I don't need to do that anymore. Don't get too comfortable in your chair, because I think house hacking is an opportunity that even people with real estate licenses can take advantage of, right? Now you got to be careful, because as you have further knowledge, the government's going to watch you closer. But the concept of house hacking is this: there is benefits to living in a rental property with you. So it would be designated as a primary residence in the home that you live in because you're there, but you can also have a rental component. So whether that's a basement apartment that's currently being rented or a fourplex. Now you obviously got to chat with an accountant on how the tax works, because it gets split up differently, and there's some methods that are better than others to get the entire amount as a deduction. But you get beautiful things like you can put less money down on a property. I mean, if you really
Yeah.
believe in the leverage of real estate, why not get that investment property for 10%? If it means you moving your family for a year or two, there's maybe an opportunity in that. Or if you are a first-time home buyer, you still get the rebates and the credits. In cities like Toronto, we have a double land transfer tax. We actually pay in the municipality of Toronto has a tax, and there's rebates that go with that as well. So why investors do this, I'd say, is because of obviously getting in for less money as an opportunity. You can get started sooner, unless you think you can save money $100,000 deep, as we've seen in our market. Maybe
Yes.
this is an opportunity for you to get in a bit sooner, and then also get things like deductions. I mean, who would get mad at reducing the interest payments on their mortgage? I know it doesn't bother me. I'm good with that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm not gonna get mad at that. Yeah. And just to add to that, we talked about this at our recent webinar that we had earlier this year, which was called "How to Maximize Your Rental Investment." For the audience here, you can check this out in our YouTube channel afterwards. But our experts did call it a good bet to invest near transportation hubs, especially new or planned hubs. Furnished suites yield higher returns. And something to keep in mind is that one bedroom condos tend to have the highest turnover rate compared to detached homes, which can cause a little bit of a headache for landlords or property managers in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think all of these things are very valid. I think working from home is here, at least for the next year or two as investors. I think we would be hurting ourselves to ignore it. And of course, as opportunities like these come along where you can utilize technology, you can utilize the digital world or automation, I think it creates a tremendous opportunity for us to think things through a little bit differently. And I think it's something we should be paying attention to.
For sure, for sure. So, on to the next big factor of some of the trends, just like what we were mentioning, is living in a digitally accelerated world. So, with the pandemic, we've seen 10 years worth of digital transformation squished into just under a year. And it's even pushed a legacy industry like the real estate, that's typically a little bit slower in adopting technology, into the digital space. Since the onset of the pandemic, we've seen LiveRent being adopted very quickly, especially in Toronto, where we just launched. And we're seeing rental deals happen entirely 100% online and contactless. Bradley, what are your thoughts about real estate industry catching up with the technological advances?
Yeah, I mean, don't look at me and you don't see the normal real estate face. Most of them are second career, a little bit older. I mean, it's natural to have real estate professionals be over 50, 60. I mean, that's not unusual, at least not in the GTA. I'm guessing that, I don't know if that's the case across Canada. Maybe I'm just very centered around my own city here. But the reality is this is forcing everybody's hand to get up to speed. I mean, I've been doing digital signing for a few years now. As soon as we were allowed to do it, I've been doing it. But now everyone's like, oh, we got to do digital signing. Look at me. I'm so futuristic. No, you had no choice. And so people are going to eventually have to lean this direction. I think the opportunity isn't in waiting until your hand is forced. It's getting ahead of the curve. And so many people are doing that, right? We got virtual tours. You got so many opportunities in front of you on how to use technology, creating your own brand, creating the marketing personally, or for if you're a property manager for your company. I mean, you want to be painted in the right light and you want to get ahead of the curve. And I think, yeah, technology is sweeping. I mean, what you guys are doing, you're bringing a lot of the technology that we would have liked to have seen in the ownership world into the rental market. I mean, you're seeing that it's almost like a leapfrog has happened. And I think that that trend's going to continue.
For sure. And as a performance marketing specialist, I know that marketing is very important. And when it comes to marketing in real estate, I think there's two crucial elements here. First is marketing yourself as a property manager, and the second one, marketing your property. So, Bradley, what can you share some of the top trends you're seeing when it comes to marketing yourself and your properties?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just important that we have a few things. One, I guess it depends on if you're looking at it from a person or as a business. In either case, you have to market yourself properly. And not to say you're just making it all up. Like, don't come at this and say, oh, well, look at me, I'm so cool, but then not be. Like, actually be cool and actually market yourself in that light and let people know your personality. Be honest, And it's so important because that trust, people only do business with people they like and they trust.
For sure.
That's a reality. So you need to create a platform to do that. How do you leverage it? What are you going to do? You're going to do LinkedIn, TikTok, right? There's so many opportunities. You got podcasting, which I'm a personal fan of. Regardless of whatever, doing things like this, getting involved and connecting with people, networking in new ways, I think is how you're going to be able to take your business to the next level because people do business with those that they trust. But I would also say when it comes to your property, you got to get really creative on how you're going to market that property. Like you can't just do the same thing everyone else does. Oh, what's the square footage of your house? Okay, it has a square footage. I get it. But people really want to know how that property is going to make them feel. And I think being able to speak to that is what's going to make you different from everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you kind of touched on into unique marketing opportunities like podcasting. So Clubhouse. Can we talk about Clubhouse, please? I got on it when I first heard about it like a few months ago, and I was working my network because I downloaded it and I realized it was super exclusive. I'm like, well, dang it. Okay. So I worked my network, finally got an invite. I'm finally in. And what are your thoughts on Clubhouse?
Yeah, and I don't also want to assume everybody knows Clubhouse because I'm only probably a month since I found out about it myself. Clubhouse has been around for a little while. But really, the basis of it is this concept. People are looking to connect through audio. That's what they want. That's why podcasts are doing well. That's why Clubhouse has so many celebrities and people jumping over to this platform because it's a beautiful opportunity for you to connect with people of influence and be able to network in a way that you can be in your PJs. I mean, I love doing calls like this and getting dressed up from the waist up, but Why even do that? I mean, if you can jump on an app like Clubhouse, what a perfect opportunity to be able to rub elbows with people of influence and be able to connect with them. So I think Clubhouse is going to be a very great tool for someone who maybe is not very well known. This is maybe their shot. You want to get famous? Any young people out there? Clubhouse, TikTok, man. These are some of the better avenues to do that.
For sure.
I have clothes on.
I can only imagine like people,
By
yeah. I can imagine people doing it like just in their PJs in bed, networking with Drake or like somebody big in the real estate. You can all do that now in all in your bed.
It is
So there,
exclusive for now, but there will be a time when it won't be. And I think just getting familiar with that technology is important, right? Don't be behind the curve because technology is going to keep changing on us.
for sure. Change is inevitable, right? Yeah.
Right.
So there are just so many opportunities to market yourself online. And if you want to market your property, one of the best ways to do that is by using our featured listings on Live Rents. So with the featured listings, it has huge ROI and gets you so many eyeballs on your units and units that rent out faster. These are units that do rent out faster too when they are featured. I think what people don't realize about this is that it's not just a banner that you have on Live Rent, but listing your unit on Live Rent really helps make your listing work just as much or just as hard as you. So all of Live Rent's listing pages are super organized and includes all the relevant information that renters need to know about, including amenities, nearby transit, and much, much more. So renters can also start a conversation with the landlord or the property management, and they can apply directly on that same page too.
Yeah, I think so. Just to, as a bit of a shout out to anyone who is a landlord or a property manager, you're going to experience, and realtors too, you guys will experience, hopefully, in a similar way what I'm going to describe here. As someone who is in the real estate business, I'm often asked, hey, can you find me a tenant? And no, I'd rather not, right? And there are some realtors who do it. I mean, if you're willing, but in real reality, often my response, unless it's a client that maybe I've helped them purchase the property, I'll go the extra mile. But generally, my advice is go to third-party sites, go to these other sites because MLS isn't the best platform to advertise your listing. Third-party sites, in my opinion, has always been. So when you have a platform like this that can get it in front of more eyeballs, we're already doing this anyways. And if people have put in the energy to create a platform for you to do it in a more successful way, I think people are crazy to ignore it. Because how else are you going to advertise? You're going to call me up because I don't want to do it.
For sure. And just for you folks attending our webinar today, we do have a special deal for you. It's 50% off our featured listing packages. And all you have to do is click on the Redeem Now button popping up on your bottom left corner. Your email will pop up with a pre-filled subject line and a message. All you have to do is press send, and one of our reps will get in contact with you about that. So now that you know how investors are marketing themselves and their properties, let's talk about trends in managing your properties. I always felt bad for texting my landlord whenever I need something because I can't imagine that kind of style of communication creates a good work-life balance. But we are innovating and adapting to working from home realities. And one of the realities of a socially distanced world is that it's much harder and sometimes impossible to schedule viewings in person. So we have seen a rapid adoption of video and virtual tours, much like you were saying. And one of the major things that came out of 2020 are virtual and 3D tours. So what are your thoughts about 3D tours and how have you used them to your benefit?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to real estate, we've done virtual tours, 3D tours for a while now. The technology has been there. I think it's fantastic. You can apply this to the rental space, and here's why. Let's say right now you have a unit, and someone's like, "I'm leaving you in a month. I love you. It's been great, but I'm adios," right? But they don't want 50 people coming through their unit that aren't qualified. And I think having a place where you can come to this agreement where, yeah, I still want to be able to showcase the unit, but I don't want this. I don't want this tension that can exist. Nor do I want to book 50 appointments. So virtual tours, 3D tours, these have been tremendous tools for really qualifying your next tenant. And not even before that step, like the technology is a platform where you can get to know people and be able to evaluate them in advance of that showing. And I think that also post viewing, let's say they did come and see it. I mean, it's very, in our industry, it's very much like, I'm just going to take a flyer. But with COVID, those flyers don't look so clean anymore, right? This is an opportunity for you to go and actually show your honey. Remember, honey, how sweet that closet was that you could put your clothes? And that is where there's an opportunity. So if you're missing that as part of your listing, you're definitely missing a big component that I think has become more important in 2021.
Agreed. And I actually have a really great example here. This is a listing on Live Rent in London, Ontario. It is a beautiful two-bedroom and one-bathroom apartment for rent. The building is close to public transit, which is a huge plus, and it looks crisp, cozy, and modern. This 3D tour is great. And actually, fun fact, Live Rent listings with video and 3D tours actually receive more engagement and inquiries than listings that do not have these capabilities. And are we really surprised by that? I mean, I'm not. If you're a planner like me, I love listings that have 3D tours or even they have that floor plan ready. Because for me, I like to imagine like, okay, where are my things gonna go? Where's my desk gonna go? So where's my working hub, as I say? And how are my things going to look like in this place? And much like you said, like nobody wants to book that 50 people going through your listing, and I don't really want to waste my time going to a place and I get there, it's like, oh, well, that sucks. Like, I don't really want this. So, pre-qualifying and having that, looking at that floor plan or even that 3D tour is just really helpful, I think.
And Melanie, just
yeah.
to add one more point, what you just described to me is exactly what I would want the thought process of my tenant to be. I want them to be able to visualize that space and be able to be organized like that. I mean, to any of the landlords out there, do you want someone who doesn't care? I mean, as long as I got a place to put my hockey equipment, I'm good. Like, that's not the tenant you want. So you want to be able to
Yeah.
speak to those people as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about like investor mindset, right? Like maximize your time, guys. Like why waste 20 minutes looking at a place when you know your stuff isn't there, it's not going to fit. Like my clothes are not going to fit in this closet. I might as well just like spend 20 minutes looking for places that will fit my clothes.
Right.
So, Bradley, you brought up the point of using these virtual tours as part of your screening process. I'm just curious, how has your tenant screening process changed in the past year?
Well, I would just say, I mean, in the past year, really the access to information is probably all that's changed. The process is very much the same, right? Like we want to make sure that they're qualified, they have the money available to pay for that rent. There's been a lot of shifting in some ways where there's been a lot more power given to tenants, which is only really making it more challenging for landlords to get this balance between screening and also get maximum amount of rent. So it's really been so you want to be really efficient at that, but you want to know like what's the credit, or even if there are challenges, what's the story? And we can use platforms like social media. You can go in and try and find as much information as you like. But I think it's very important in provinces, especially where the government or the province isn't set up to protect your rights as a landlord first, that they tend to be more tenant heavy. It's all the more reason for us to be very picky with that screening process and don't take those risks. I don't think you need to take those risks, even with the climate today, but I think it's important that we take that extra step, right? And that's what I've experienced. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think like doing your due diligence, right? Like it's crazy. I think you were mentioning this yesterday, but it's actually crazy like what you can find on the internet. Like a simple
Yeah.
Google search can just like pop up so many things. And I was mentioning to you yesterday too was one of my friends who was renting out her place. She was looking for a mortgage helper. She purchased a place and she finally found this tenant, looked good on paper. She was talking to me about it, kind of looking for advice. And I asked her, I'm like, okay, well, have you looked up his or her social media or like what their footprint's like? And she said, no, not really. Like they look good on paper, everything kind of checks out. I'm like, okay, sure, it's up to you, but like a 1 year lease is a very long time. If you have a bad tenant, that's a very long time to kind of put up with. So we ended the conversation there, and I think a few days later she comes back to me because she actually did look this person up, and she realized that they are on the heavier, or sorry, they are on the younger age. So they do, like, this was pre-COVID, so they like partying, having friends over. And at that point, this was her first property. And she's like, well, I don't really want to worry about somebody throwing a party or throwing ragers in my basement. And I have to worry about property damage. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like with that simple step, you just avoided a huge headache that could cost you like, a few $1,000s, if anything, if there were any damages, right?
Yeah. And one of the other things I've seen with COVID is now oftentimes before COVID, we were very much saying, what is the stability of that person and their careers? And talking to heavyweights when it comes to like property managers and investors, now they also want to see that it's COVID and recession proof, the jobs that you have. So being able to do that extra step and see what could this turn into, right? Given the new climate, and people are using technology to do that.
For sure. And we've actually seen a lot of landlords on our platform ask renters to apply even before they do the showing. This way, the landlords are actually able to pre screen the renters. So here at Live Rent, we do have something called the Live Score. And it actually allows landlords and property managers to screen applicants by being able to see their credit check, financial information, employment or income verifications, and much more, everything in one place. So you can check it out and learn more about this through the pop-up on the bottom left of your screen if you want more information. So finally, before we get to our last trend of the webinar, we want to know which part of the rental process have you guys automated? So let's talk about this. The increased use of digital tools to help automate and scale your investments. What are your thoughts on some trending digital tools real estate investors are using or could be using to their benefit even more?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this comes again right back to where we started here and what is an investor mindset. And the whole idea is scale, right? And how do you scale without automation? You can't. So having that automation, whether, I mean, me personally, like I use a virtual assistant. I mean, I use various programs such as the ones you guys have in order to do things that they're better at doing than is worth my effort and energy. And so I think when it comes to, I mean, we asked the audience, where do you want to be? And a third of them said out of province is the opportunity. How are you going to pull that off without a system in place in those
Yeah.
areas? So I think digital, all of these things, regardless, that you need to have some kind of process in place. And you might as well, I mean, yeah, we'd all love to invent a software that can screen tenants for us, but that's not worth my time. And probably everyone else here is probably not worth your time. So
Yeah.
that's where it's like I'm gonna take advantage of the energy and effort, and that's of value to me. So
Yeah, exactly. It's almost kind of like, when you get a check and you want to deposit it to the bank. Like, I know there are very few people out there like, well, it only takes me 2 minutes to go to the bank, deposit it or whatever. But, again, that investor mindset, it's like, okay, well, why take that 2 minutes when you can take 2 seconds, take a photo, upload it, and it's directly deposited to your bank account. Like that's one less step to do.
I'd
So,
rather spend the 5 minutes on TikTok. So
yeah, trying to
I
get
value
viral.
my time.
Yeah, for sure. So on top of automating the rental process, LiveRent actually acts like your very own rental virtual assistant. So we help you by sending you automated payment reminders, automating responses to renters, and finally organizing all of your rental documents. We're like your Google Drive or Dropbox for everything rental. So we're here to help you organize everything from your renter application, contracts, and even inspection reports and photos, applications and photos by listing. So never again do you really have to kind of panic and kind of try to figure out, okay, which subfolder of your Google Drive did you put your contract in? So, start thinking like an investor, guys, and start like, time is money.
Yeah, and I would add to that, and shout out to the property managers in the room because, like, at the end of the day, like, I know we're just looking, I'm jumping over here, but I'm looking at the poll results that came in, if that's okay. And I'm seeing 40% of the audience voted responding to renters was the process that they've automated the most. I think
Hmm.
that's a good point because as a smaller investor, sometimes tenants feel that you could be taken advantage of, even if they know who you are, even just putting on a face of, hey, I'm the property manager, even if you are the one that owns that corporation, can protect you from a lot of these things. So pulling yourself, distancing yourself a little bit can actually create tremendous opportunities for people. And just to finish the sharing of the results there, 40% of the audience voted online rent payment, right? That's
Hmm.
great. Like from a property management perspective, that's a reason to have those systems in place for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Yeah, anything you can automate, like just automate it. Like why put in the effort, right? Um, so let's check. Okay, so those are our final results. Thanks for doing that for me.
Sorry.
All
I got
good.
excited.
Yeah, all good. You're just trying to get the spotlight. It's all good. So guys, just make sure you've entered the giveaway because we are going to be wrapping up and announcing the winners right after the Q&A session. Since you've shared your thoughts already, we might as well just jump ahead. Um, so we're going to do our Q&A session now. Thank you everyone who have submitted a question in the live chat. We will try to do our best to get through all of them. There are quite a few, so bear with us. We also want to mention that the giveaway contest is now closed. So stay tuned for the winners after the Q&A session, as I mentioned. So let's get on to the questions. So question number one, please go over OPM or private lending or other mortgage options. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question of what's OPM is other people's money. So the idea, I mean, the question, the way it was worded isn't clear, but just to kind of explain the thinking of an investor is if there's a platform for me to invest with other people's money, that creates a platform where I can do multiple deals rather than waiting for my own. I mean, it's a big reason why, like, I love apartment buildings because it gets you into that category faster than residential. Same with private lending. I mean, if I can borrow that money, that actually results in a higher return for myself on the right deals. So just to kind of explain that point to people, the idea behind using other people's money is really a play of scale. Now you can structure it different. You can do joint ventures, or you can do it as a debt investor where they'll give you the money and you pay them back. If you can keep the majority of the pie to yourself, that's a win, right? And using other people's money to create money, that's a win. So these are all strategies that I'm using and that other large investors are using. I think it's something we should all really learn a little bit more about.
Hmm. Okay. So the next question that we have here, okay, this one I'm interested even. Do you recommend investing in real estate over stocks or vice versa? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to summarize it, I'd say invest in the thing that you know best, that you're most comfortable in. Like I know anytime I've been burned, it's in times I've invested in something that I don't actually fully understand myself. Not to say you can't leverage what other people are doing, but we should have a general understanding. So I think
Hmm.
I know many people that are very successful investing in stocks and options. And I mean, there's so many crazy stories right now. And even young people are starting to get into investing in stocks, which is fantastic because they're very similar principles, right? It's that buy and hold, get rich in the long term, hopefully. I mean, stocks, I think, can kind of go outside that a little bit. But as far
Hmm.
as stocks go, like I'm not much of a stock guy. I do basic ETF index funds, and I'm good with those steady returns. I do real estate because I that's what I love, and I love the hard assets. So if I was going to answer, I would say real estate, but I'm biased.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I definitely agree with your point. Like, it's got to be something that you like or you understand. Because even like, as I was mentioning before, when I was getting into like stocks, one person kind of asked me, do you know what that is? Like, do you understand how that company works or do you know how their business works? And I just kind of looked at them like, not really, but like, look, the chart's going up. And they're just like, Melanie, if you can't explain to me what they do or how that works, don't do it. So now that's just kind of been my golden rule. I'm like, okay, if I don't understand it, I'm just not going to do it. Much like Bitcoin, I get it now, but I wouldn't be able to tell you anything more than just what the dollar amount is right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it comes back down
Mm,
to your own preference, in all honesty.
sure, for sure. So for our next question, let's see here. So considering the increase in prices for detached homes, more people are buying townhomes and condos due to affordability. Will this bring the prices up for those types of dwelling in the future?
Yes, absolutely. So here's another kind of added point to that, right? Wherever the demand is and the supply, which I mean, you could argue, at least in Toronto, there's been an influx of supply of condos. Regardless, if the demand is still in that space, then I think there's an opportunity there. Wherever people are geared, and the funny thing is, the government's very good at steering people in those directions. I mean, if you're buying a property over $1 million, give me your 20%. I mean, you add that extra level of restriction. Things like
Mhm.
the first-time home buyer incentive, right? We're going to only fund you up to a certain percentage. These are okay programs, but they artificially inflate some of these markets. And the ones that they've identified absolutely are getting that push. That's why we're seeing a lot of trends in that direction, not to mention affordability in general, right? So,
Mhm.
yes, the answer to that is absolutely people are being pushed in some ways to those areas. Where I think there's a link, the difference between the condos and the townhomes is the townhomes are often used as a missing middle argument, right? This idea that we need to find a gap. People don't want to be in this tiny little condo, but they also can't afford a detached or a semi. And townhomes are kind of that sweet spot where I think you might
Mhm.
see an unusual amount of attention gravitating to those areas.
Yeah. So it's almost like a stepping stone into getting a house.
Yeah. People will be okay with townhomes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a townhome. You're still in a low rise freehold unit potentially. And that
Mhm.
can be
Yeah, for sure.
our expectation has just changed from everyone gets detached to everybody gets into the low rise, right? And that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So our next question here, what are the pros and cons of renting out portions of a detached if that's not your primary residence?
Okay, so pros of cons of renting out portions. So that I guess I could be coming to the point of is it rooms or is it based on units?
Mm-hmm.
Rooms, I mean, no matter what, the more you slice it, the more you get per unit. Like overall, your cash flow number goes up. I think the question comes back down to, is it within the rules of the city? Because if you've got all these extra units that aren't registered, you're putting yourself in kind of an extra level of risk. But I'm very much believe, if at all possible, if I can get 4 units out of there, I'm going to go for 4 units because that means more cash flow for me as an investor. I think that's a great thing. So, and same with rooms. I mean, some people lean towards student housing and individual rooms. I think that's a little bit overboard for me, but a lot of people are making a killing doing it. So good on you.
For sure. Okay. So this one is coming from Nolan, who is in our live chat. Hey, Nolan. So he says, "Hi, Bradley. I'm looking to buy a condo for an investment. The condo I'm interested in is only about 460 square feet, but I'm worried that it will be too hard to rent out. What are your thoughts on that?"
Yeah. So he's looking to buy a condo. So he's already made his decision. He just wants me to reaffirm his decision. That's what I'm hearing. But I helped someone purchase a condo right before COVID. It was a tiny, they call them tiny homes or tiny condos, right? And under 500 absolutely has kind of been the focus recently of the ones hardest hit by COVID. But we're starting to see those numbers picking up. I mean, if you look at the months of inventory and the stuff that's been sitting in those smaller units, they're getting gobbled up quickly. Again, back to that affordability argument. So I don't think whether it's 460 square feet or 700 square feet is going to make a big difference. I think more the location is probably something they should be considering. And really to buy a condo at 460 square feet tells me he's probably downtown. So he's betting on the downtown area to come back,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a bad bet if all of the numbers are lining up with that. So yeah, I think that could be good.
Okay. Next question here is, what's one piece of advice you would give to a first-time investor?
I think the most valuable thing that you have is to educate yourself, whether that's through coaches, whether that's through reading, whether it's talking to people. I've been fortunate to talk to some incredible people, which is why I know a couple things. And I think that that should be your best investment, really. I
Yeah.
mean, even before buying a property, get to know what you're getting. When I bought my first property, this is back in 2014, I was a realtor and I was being told by others, don't buy a house, rent. It's so much better. Like there's a supply issue there, but it's a bubble. It's a bubble. And really we made a decision to house hack, which we described today, because we understood the value of that type of investment. And so really what saved us was our own thinking on the topic. And the more you know, and can rub elbows with people that are in that arena, I think the more successful you'll be. Well, there's no point running into a pitfall if someone else has done it and will teach you about it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we do have our last question here. What are your tips on investing in real estate with little to no money? That's a good one.
That is a good one. I would say you can invest in real estate with other people's money, but don't come at it when you have $0 in your bank account. Because I think there's this idea that, oh, I'm going to buy it and I'm not going to put any money in the deal. Therefore, I don't need any money and I can still apply that strategy. That's not really how it works.
Yeah.
If you actually look at the people who are using other people's money, they do have a bit of a nest egg. I mean, even just as simple as from your expenses, you should have 3 to 6 months of your expenses on hand. This is outside of the actual purchase itself. So when it comes to like what tips for investing in real estate with little to no money, I would say that's where you could use things like other people's money. You can get very creative with things like vendor takebacks, which again, very little more complicated, where the seller can finance that property. So if you can get access to the right deal or be able to connect, again, all of this coming back from learning, then that's an opportunity for you to be able to do this. But I don't want people to think that because I'm putting little to no money, therefore it's accessible and available to everybody. You should be well thought through. And yeah, there's a ton of different ways on how to, with little to no money. I mean, house hacking is a great platform. 5% down, you get in the market. I mean, that's not complicated. That's pretty straightforward. And there's also other things too, but those are a few of them. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thanks so much. I think that wraps up our Q&A session. So we're ready to announce our 3 raffle winners. So let's check it out. Da-da-da-da. So our 3 winners are Sherry McIntyre, Tiffany Yu, and Judy JC. So congratulations, guys. We will be emailing you with more information on how to claim your prize. And thank you again for joining me today, Bradley. It's been so informative and such a pleasure. So do tell everybody, where can they find you?
Melanie, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. And yeah, you guys can jump over. We have a whole bunch of fun on our podcast. It's called Toronto's #1 real estate podcast. If you just look up Toronto Real Estate on iTunes, you'll see my face somewhere there. Or on YouTube, you can find us at Watson Estates. And I know you guys also had a link where people can click and find a little bit more. We do have an investor list where we share off market and apartment deals. We're doing a whole lot of fun stuff. And so I welcome anybody to join our family of investors.
Sure. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. Catch you again on another Live Talk. Join us again March 5th for another webinar on tax tips. So follow us for more updates regarding that. For now, see you later.